election hacking and those wiretapping claims, some of the topics we discussed when we sat down exclusively with the new UN ambassador, Nikki Haley, her first interview in that role. But we began by talking about the president's travel ban just a couple of hours before it was blocked by a federal judge. During the campaign, you strongly objected to any idea of a Muslim ban. You called it un-American, unconstitutional. You said it defies everything that this country was based on, and it's just wrong. Now we have the second version of this travel ban that's being pushed by the White House. Do you support it?
Yes.
Why do you support it now?
It's not a Muslim ban. I will never support a Muslim ban. I don't think we should ever ban anyone based on their religion. That is un-American. What the president is doing, everybody needs to realize that what he's doing is saying, let's take a step back, let's temporarily pause, and
let's temporarily pause immigration from majority Muslim countries.
No, Matt, he's saying let's temporarily pause, and you prove to me that the vetting is okay, that I can trust these people coming through for the American people.
And as the daughter of Indian immigrants, what do you say to others who worry they won't be allowed in this country when they have every right to come to this country, or people who are worried they're going to be sent out of this country?
Well, I can tell you, first of all, as the daughter of Indian immigrants, I am extremely sensitive to the fact that the fabric of America is immigrants. I want that to always be the case. But I also understand that the countries in question have serious terrorist activity going on.
And now we're hearing that there is going to be a dramatic cut in funding for the State Department. Some of that money is going to come out of the money you need to do things that you do at the United Nations. Do you have a plan in place to make do without that money?
Yes. And I will tell you that it's okay, because I know that when we got to the U.S. mission, the first thing we did was cut out all the overtime. There was way too much overtime there. But then you look at the United Nations. The Secretary General is new just like I am, and we both have come together on the efficiencies that are needed in peacekeeping reform, which we spend a ton of money on, and we've come together on management reform. So when you look at the things that we're actually cutting, there are ways to cut and still keep value in the UN. That's my job.
That's going to cut to the bone. You talk about peacekeeping. Some of that money goes to peacekeeping missions. We're talking about humanitarian aid to impoverished nations and regions of the world. We're talking about vaccine programs. These are the ways that the United States has expressed its leadership in the past. Even if you cut back, there's going to be some sort of a vacuum left behind. And are you worried at all that a country like Russia or a country like China will attempt to fill that vacuum in terms of leadership around the world?
We need Russia to step up and pay more. We need to see other countries step up and pay more. We've carried the burden for a really long time. I must condemn the aggressive actions of Russia.
You've said some tough things about Russia. Do you think that President Trump has a bit of a blind spot when it comes to Russia and Vladimir Putin?
I think he's very open-minded about working with everyone. He doesn't want to cut anyone off. What he has allowed me to do is when I see something wrong, I call them out on it. I will always do that. But at the same time, if I see an opportunity to work on something with them, like we do with ISIS and Daesh, we're going to try and do that.
Take your ambassador's hat off for me for a second, though. As just a citizen, do you have any questions about the relationship between Donald Trump, his associates, and the Russians?
I really don't. And I'll tell you why, because I've talked to them about it. And while they know of people, you've got to look at the fact that ambassadors' jobs are to talk to everyone. That's what I think we've seen the Russian ambassador do. At the same time, he's not once told me not to slam Russia. He's not once told me go and be nice to Russia. He's letting me do my job.
We now know that the Russians were behind the hack of Yahoo, behind the hack of the DNC. They were meddling in our election. What should the president do in response?
Take it seriously. We cannot trust Russia. We should never trust Russia.
But that's all? Just take it seriously? What else should he do?
No, I don't think we want anyone meddling in our elections. That's why these investigations are going to matter. We have to find out exactly how involved they were, and we should never be okay with that.
Should we increase sanctions?
And when we see the facts, we absolutely should have some sort of action that we take in response to it. But we have to know all the facts first.
So you would say you and the president are on exactly the same page in terms of your level of distrust for Russia and Vladimir Putin?
No, I would not say that. I'm not going to talk about where the president is because I don't know. I have always made it very clear from my confirmation and in the words that I've said at the UN that I don't trust Russia.
There's been an awful lot of talk Ambassador Haley, about the president's tone. And after his speech to a joint session of Congress, you complimented him. You said, you know what, the tone on that was right. It was a different tone. It was presidential. 4 days later, President Trump tweeted out and accused his predecessor, President Obama, of wiretapping his phones at Trump Tower. Was that presidential?
I'm not going to comment on any of that. What I will tell you is his address to Congress was, the tone was spot on, it was presidential.
But it was a speech in a teleprompter, and yet left to his own devices and back with his cell phone on a Saturday morning, he goes back to accusing the president, former president, of committing a crime and presents no evidence. Is that presidential?
I'm not going to say that. He is our president, Matt. And so what he does, faults and all, he's our president. And so I want him to be successful. When these tweets come out, I mean, do I look at them and say, okay, where'd that come from? Yes, but I don't pick up the phone and say, what are you doing? I just know that's who he is.
Obviously, walking a rather narrow line there.
He's the boss.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to have more of our conversation with Ambassador Haley tomorrow on Today, including how she feels about President Trump calling the UN a club and the personal side of the job, moving her family from South Carolina to New York City.
Look forward to that.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.